Hey, how y'all
Hey,
doing?
everybody.
What's up?
Bye bye.
We are live. We are live. Today is Wednesday, August 26th. We're about 69 days. That's an interesting number. 69 days away from the
69
Well,
days.
election. How's everybody
I
doing?
mean, it feels like it.
How's everybody doing?
I'm
I
all
know.
right. It's been a crazy day. I'm not gonna lie. I cried earlier. I was upset, man. It was hard.
You said you
I
cried.
Crazy
almost
stuff.
cried. I feel you. I'm with you.
You better be in touch with your emotions. I heard that. I love that. No, I'm doing well. How about you?
Yeah, and I don't even cry like that, but yeah.
Oh, well, we're going to pray. Whatever it is, you overcome that. No weapon formed against you shall prosper.
Shall prosper.
There we
Amen.
go. There we
Right?
go.
Jasmine, how you doing?
You know, I took a lazy day today, so I'm doing good, but I will be up all night so that I can catch up. But
Oh.
otherwise, today was really, y'all, I got a free bottle of champagne and 2 sandwiches today at
Not
my
one.
local.
Oh,
So it was a
It
good
must be
day.
the glow, girl. It's the glow.
It was like loud.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we know Mr. Vice President Pence is still currently on the screen talking, but we
Wait a minute.
have.
How was your day?
I said my day was good. It was
You
good.
did. It was just so short.
You know,
It was just so good.
today I learned a valuable lesson, and that is it's time for me to start saying no more often.
Ooh, boundaries. Where's that book at?
That is my lesson of the day. So I am saying no to a lot of stuff. So I encourage you all to get your no pants on for the next couple weeks because it's getting real. But we have so much news to cover today. Bobby Boy Bob, Mr. Lawrence, and Jasmine, you guys want to take away the first portion of our news topics for the day? It's a lot, y'all.
it's a lot. So last week, I'll just jump right in. Last week, we talked a lot about the Democratic National Convention and what was going on. And this week, the last few days, the Republican National Convention has been going down. We want to give you guys a few takeaways and highlights, or I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. Overall, the theme, and this is, again, from an objective standpoint, has been based upon rallying the troops of American supporters, believing that the fear, and there is a lot of negativity going around and fear that they should have. Donald Trump has talked about rioting, looting, and vandalism as being major causes that need to be nipped in the bud. His son, Donald Trump Jr., came out and attacked the opposition, as all Republicans, not just Republicans, as all politicians do. He referred to as Joe Biden as Beijing Biden, and the most recent economic downturn is due to Joe Biden being really light on China, and that if he goes and he becomes the president, that we will have an economic downturn. He also called him the Loch Ness monster of the swamp. Other than that, we had a Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina, who is an African American senator, who is obviously a Trump supporter, and made a comment saying that he went from, or we as a people have gone from picking cotton to Congress, and that we live in a progressive America today where everything is possible for all people, including African Americans. Another famous or prominent politician, Nikki Haley, who was the former governor of South Carolina, who's now the ambassador for the United Nations under the Trump administration. She said that we live in a pretty much post-racial society, and that to say that the United States is a racist country is a complete lie, and that her and her family of immigrants have come here and are progressive and ready to succeed. I have a few more topics, but I'll let Jasmine chime in from there too.
Yeah, and so watching and kind of doing the compare and contrast thing with the DNC and the RNC, it seems like the Democrats were more so, let's save the country, where the RNC is trying to pander or trying to influence the people who they know are kind of on the fence. So they know Black women are routinely going to vote Democrat, and talking about how the DNC is this Democratic ideology. So what the RNC is trying to do is pander to Black men who usually don't, one, they vote a little bit less than Black women, and they are on the fence. They like the economics part of Trump. So a lot of the conversations this week were to combat the rhetoric that Trump has spoken about, which is women, immigration. So we saw earlier this week Trump pardoning a guy who was a bank robber. We saw him naturalize citizens. We saw all that good stuff that Trump wants to be so pro women, pro black, and all that good stuff. Right. We also want to highlight that Melania didn't plagiarize this week or this week. So shout out to her for that.
Actually, her speech was actually quite decent from what I could
It was decent. It was the most decent.
It was good.
In my opinion, of all the candidates, all the speeches this week. So
he was actually the only person, from my recollection, that even mentioned what's going on with social justice within our nation. No one else has really been talking about it. Even the hand cotton pick black people that they did have on there weren't really talking about it. They were more, a lot of things. Okay, what I felt really bad about, you guys, which I knew was going to keep coming, and it's Biden's fault. He did it to himself. But they kept bringing up his comment that he made when he was talking to Charlemagne. If you ain't
right.
black, you're not voting.
Right, and that's all they have.
I kept hearing it. Anytime it was a black person on the screen, they mentioned it. And I'm like, why did he say that?
Right, and a lot of the conversation has been about the whole law and order thing, right? And saying that Kamala and Joe Biden are the worst people and locked up so many black people, while Trump is pardoning people, and Trump is working with Kim Kardashian to get people out of jail. So it's like people are trying to make Trump, or the RNC is trying to make Trump this savior and saying that he is actually for and are doing more things for black people, and trying to just get in the ear of black men, because with Kamala being an AKA and having that support with the Divine Nine, we know that she's going to get a lot of her sorors and I don't know the word, but the Divine Nine to participate in this election for them.
Yeah. I'm just glad Kanye wasn't there.
Go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm glad Kanye wasn't there. I know he's on his own campaign trail and everything right now, because I feel like a couple months ago, he would have been right up there with a red hat.
Is there a birthday party convention?
I don't know.
And then, I think I sent it to you guys that Akon is supporting some independent presidential campaign.
I don't know, but I do want to speak to Melania Trump since we're on the topic, because I enjoyed her speech. She was the only one, kind of like you were saying, Shariq, that really talked about racial unjust, and she really was talking about racial harmony. And so one thing she said is that, we need to really band together during this time. And actually, they started off with a prayer for Jacob Blake, which I was kind of really surprised by that. But Melania really addressed some of the things that I personally was feeling, like just being together, creating harmony amongst all races, treating people how we want to be treated, stopping the violence and looting being done in the name of justice. She mentioned all of that in her speech. I thought she did very well. She also talked about being an immigrant, coming to this country and getting her citizenship, doing her test. So she really, if I was a person that was just moved solely on words, she would have definitely moved me. I thought she spoke very well. I thought she spoke very eloquently. And I thought this was probably one of her best speeches that I've ever seen her done. Yeah.
Congrats to her writers.
Yeah. Shout out to her.
Well, apparently she didn't have writers. Apparently she wrote the speech and she did not get it vetted before speaking. She didn't show anyone.
Mm-hmm. We have a comment. I want to put it on the screen.
When we going back to the black men who are speaking, I think it's interesting that Clarence Henderson, he spoke tonight about how when he protested and was a part of a sit in 1960, that this is America and Trump's America that he's been fighting for. And that's been a lot of the rhetoric tonight, is that Trump has made this America that is great, and that the pandemic is the only thing that has reeled or derailed his greatness.
that was another topic I felt they shied away from a lot in terms of the pandemic and COVID and his response to it.
Oh, it was no.
Really hear very much about it, except for Melania. Melania
was the
I was
only
about to say, she spoke about COVID.
She's the only one that talked and said it was COVID-19. Everyone else who mentioned it still called it the China flu or the China virus.
So disrespectful.
Well,
and I didn't know that she didn't have her speech vetted, but it makes sense because it didn't seem in line with any other speeches that we saw. I do want to give her credit from speaking from her heart, but she's not the one running for president, and the president was saying something different. So, that's still problematic.
Yeah. So those were some of the key takeaways. I do want to show a video from last night's episode of The Daily Show because I thought it was really interesting and it kind of encompassed my confusion with some of the back and forth rhetoric of the Democratic Party and how some of the things didn't quite make sense. So let's watch this clip really quickly and you guys let me know.
Something as simple.
Okay, well, we're not going to show the clip right now. We're going to keep going because the clip just messed up.
It's life. That's how my day went. That's exactly how my day went.
The ads come in and just mess up everything.
That's how my day went. You thought it was going to go this way, and then it just be like, oh, well, I guess it's not going to go like this today.
All right, well, here we go. I think I got it.
How long do you spend in front of the
screen? Then they come with the ads.
How do you feel?
It's only a couple seconds.
It's 2 seconds.
We got to pay
all right. They know.
Right. But we won't live there. Disarm you, empty the prisons, lock you in your home, and invite MS-13 to live next door.
With no hope of escape except death itself.
Good God. I'm terrified and confused. Because if Joe Biden gets elected, MS-13 is going to move in next door. But we won't live there anymore because we'll be kicked out of the suburbs. And if we try to go to church, the Democrats will call the cops on us. But there won't be any cops because they defunded the police. So we'll have to take ourselves to prison. But they abolished the prisons. So now all the criminals are out on the streets, which means they can shoot us. But they can't shoot us because the Democrats have taken away all the guns, which means all we can do is fight with our words. But we can't because words have been canceled. I don't know what it means. Damn.
That's pretty much my feeling in regards to the RNC. What do you think, Lauren?
That I don't think Republicans understand.
I couldn't agree more. It's a lot of fear mongering and the fear from every single angle. Like he put it so eloquently and perfectly back to back. They think, you're not going to have freedom of speech. You're not going to have your guns. You're going to have MS-13 who's just going to come over from Mexico and hop the big gate that was never built. And they're going to be here illegally and they're going to take your jobs, but they're not going to take your jobs because they're all criminals that don't have jobs. It's just so many contradictions and it's just ridiculous, the type of fear that people just believe in. And what's interesting is like people will grab onto one thing that they're afraid of and just delete all the rest. Because if you put it all in context with each other, it doesn't make sense. And so they just go with one thing and run with it.
Yeah,
it's funny, but it's sad.
Yeah, it's very contradictory. And it just, to me, it just confuses the heck out of me. And what I also thought was very interesting is a lot of the GOP commentary regarding the DNC was that the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, was very dark. They kept saying it was so dark. Everything was so negative. And the country is this. The country is in the state of this.
That's what I was saying. I was listening to the RNC tonight and one guy was like, who has improved international relations? And I was like, not Trump. But he said that Trump has. And it's like they're living in this alternative universe that we're not experiencing. And I think it's the whole Fox News versus CNN type of thing, is that we're living in two Americas.
Yeah.
I also want to say one other thing, and it refers to voting, how they were saying that the Democrats want to send election ballots to people that didn't ask for them and dead people around the world. And I was like, I don't even know where they got that or where that came from. I was wondering how he was going to spin it because he's got so much negative publicity from, him trying to influence the Postmaster General to try to depress election votes. And I guess what they came up with was, let's just say that the Democrats want to just mail out ballots to random addresses, which has never been said. It's never going to be done. So I thought that was hilarious.
All of those have been debunked.
One thing that stood out to me was that, and I was watching CNN, and they said that, Joe Biden did not say that he was going to defund the police. He's not for the defund the police. And I've always been a person that said, I'm not really into the speeches. I want to know about policies and what you're going to actually do for change. And so when I look at these candidates and I look at, Joe Biden and Senator Harris, and I'm just kind of like, a lot of what the Republicans saying was true in regards to their past history. Of course, they're going to demonize them, but a lot of that was true. And so for me, I'm just kind of like, this question is for you guys. What do you find are the biggest differences between policies, procedures that, the Democrats have versus the Republicans outside of the fact of just performative speech, I should say?
What I found was the difference between the two is I feel as though the RNC was kind of more in defense mode. They were more in defense mode, and they were more saying this is what the Democrats are going to do if they take control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. This is what they're going to do, and they're going to.
They have to do that because they don't know, right? It's more so like a prediction.
I'm saying in regards to actually talking about policy implementation, talking about things that they're going to put into place to make it better. They just kind of wanted to paint the picture that everything is already peachy creamy, and that's what kind of bothered me. I didn't really hear a lot about the policies that they're going to implement in the next 4 years in order to change and make things better. So, I mean, that's just what my experience from what I saw it was. I didn't see a lot of actual policy conversation.
And that's my problem with the whole thing. If we're talking about policy, I want in the first 100 days of the Biden-Harris administration, I want them to have an executive order on this police brutality, because at this point it's getting out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I watched a video from Ice Cube, and one thing he said was that it is okay for us to demand things of our candidates. It's like this idea that we can't demand things. Reparations, that would be great if we had reparations. It is okay to put the pressure on these politicians to do something for the Black community. It is not okay for us to continue to live and breathe and seeing our brothers and sisters get killed every day, and these politicians just glazing over the racial injustices in this country. That is not okay. And so if you guys get a chance, and even our viewers, if you get a chance to actually watch what Ice Cube said, I would really recommend it, because I would love to hear your thoughts. I don't know if you guys seen it or not, but that he really talked about, let's put pressure on these politicians, to do something for the Black community. And he said outside of the PPP loan, and I don't even know if you guys are familiar with the PPP loan. Some people got it or not. But one thing he said is it was $1 trillion bill that went to their friends. And he's absolutely right. As a business owner, we didn't get that the first time. You know what I mean? And so it's just important to know what's going on. And I think conversations like this are great, because it sheds light to a lot of people did get the PPP loan once we raised the fuss. You're bailing out your friends. You know what I mean? These big billion-dollar companies and these smaller Black businesses, I think 42%, are in risk, if not already, of being closed.
Yeah,
I fully agree with that. I saw the Ice Cube clip on Instagram. One thing that I will say, though, I think that is a conversation to be had at a different time. That's a conversation to be had in between the 4 years of the national elections. We should be putting the emphasis on our local politicians, governors, local state senators as such, because now there's really no leverage, to be honest with you. Once you have a Democratic candidate and a Republican candidate, it's going to be one of the two. And so if we're like, hey, we're not going to vote for, or what can we say right now? And I know it sounds bad, but to the ticket with Kamala Harris is being like, okay, we won't vote for you. Then we have Trump. And the thing about Trump, going back to the policy initiatives, I noticed that he didn't talk about any of the policy initiatives that he talked about 4 years ago. To me, that's a red flag. Even for his supporters, the people that voted for him, he didn't talk about the wall, because the wall didn't get built.
You talking about tonight? Because he hasn't.
No. I'm talking about I'm talking about him leading up to this convention, and I'm talking about any of the individuals that spoke. All of the initiatives and programs that he was supposed to implement for his supporters, he didn't even do it. Especially when we talk about funding Medicaid, funding Medi-Cal, when we talk about not doing away with Social Security, helping, the middle class or poor whites. He didn't do any of that. And so now he's talking about other initiatives to take their mind off of all of the lies that he had. And he's like, oh, well, you should just be afraid of what the Democrats are going to do. So for me, from a policy standpoint, I'm like, you didn't even do what you said you were going to do for the people that voted for you last time. So why am I supposed to believe anything that's coming from you this time?
Right.
And then a big thing about Ice Cube's statement is we always say put pressure, but a lot of people are putting pressure on social media. And while that does work in some components, it's going to get played at some point, right? Like we have to actually show up at our town halls. We have to actually write to our politicians and to our community leaders. We can't just depend on outrage on social media. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing. But I think where you're saying, Jerica, that we pushed back is that people actually wrote emails. It was easier. And I remember I got something where all I had to do was swipe up on someone's post or click something on someone's post, and it automatically drafted the email for me. And all I had to do was
I did several of those.
Right. So I think making it easier for us to be able to advocate for ourselves and the learning of who our representatives are is definitely important. And how do we advocate for that?
I agree with you, but the reason why I'm posing it to you guys specifically because you guys have already voiced your support for Biden as well as Senator Harris, and so that's kind of the reason why I'm asking. For me, I think that Biden had a conversation with Cardi B and he had a conversation with Charlamagne the God, but it's like these are celebrities. Why not have conversations with political activists? So my thing is, if you already are like Trump is trash, right? Okay, cool. If you want to vote for Biden and Harris, then why not put the pressure to have conversations with people that can actually not stand Cardi B and Charlamagne? They can't, but that is not their roles. No, those are not their roles. I would rather those conversations be with activists.
We know at this stage in the game, the primary thing that all of these politicians are going to be doing is appeasing to these swing states. They're going to be appeasing to the Floridas. They're going to be trying to get all of those people who are kind of moderating in between. That's going to be their base. They're not really going to go heavily after us, after the German demographic, which we think we should. I absolutely believe that they should. But right now they're playing to win. They're playing a game of checkers, honestly, not even chess. Because I think there's definitely a deeper, more in-depth, not so, patternized method that they're doing. But go ahead, Jasmine, and I want to jump into another.
And I think that's what the RNC was saying tonight is that Black people have this ideology that we must vote Democrat and that we must vote for all the Democratic policies, but they haven't been doing anything over the past years for us. And that's what Ice Cube was saying. That's what a lot of the rhetoric is for people who aren't necessarily so gung-ho about Biden and Harris. But like Lauren said, we only have these two options. If we had another option, if we had Bernie, if we had Elizabeth Warren, we will vote for them. We will be more excited for them.
Yeah, I think the things I want to get rid of is the two-party system and the electoral college. So
there you go.
I could agree with that. That's where we're all in. All in agreement on that.
All in agreement.
But really quickly, I did want to jump into another really interesting. We had a couple controversies this week as well. A lot of news happened. Kellyanne Conway, Mrs. Alternative Facts herself, who did speak at the RNC, was it yesterday? She did speak, but as she's phasing out of her duties within the Trump party, she is saying bye-bye to politics. And from what she says, this is due to family issues that she has. And if I did a little bit of research on Kelly, I've known about her husband, who is actually a Republican, but he's super, super anti-Trump. And he actually founded a group that has been going in on Trump, calling him a liar and all sorts of things. So it's just really interesting to me that all of this is happening just in the midst. We're 69 days away, and his number one hitter, his hype woman is falling out the ranks. So I thought that was interesting. On top of her speech, there was the Secretary of State spoke, and that's kind of not conventional. I don't know if you guys heard about that. So they had some really interesting speakers.
Who is the Secretary of State right now?
I don't know if it's the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of State, so I will have to fact check that. But also, we have the influx in the awareness of QAnon. I don't know if you guys have heard about QAnon, but I've been finding that really interesting. They are a far-right conspiracy theory group that is alleging Satan-worshiping pedophiles are running the country. And not just in politics. They had Jay-Z on there. They had Oprah on there. So I'm seeing a lot of reports that this is kind of, Trump's stronghold right now because he is trailing in the polls. So now we have this outlandish conspiracy theory group that is kind of coming to lift him up. So I'm a little bit nervous because you never know. What do you guys think about the conspiracy QAnon?
So, okay, go ahead.
It's hard, right? Because for every 10 or 100 conspiracies, one is true. Mm-hmm. So when I look at situations like this and they're so outlandish, I want to just look at them and then completely push them out of my mind. But I need to respect those votes and those individuals too. It's like, how do you communicate to somebody that believes that, they're having the pedophile rinks at Disneyland, or that 5G is out here giving us COVID and we don't need to wear masks, and they're coming to get us, that what's next? The aliens are coming to get us. It's really hard to speak to someone without logic and reason, or just that so far away from your ideology. So when we see these, and before, you have this, you have Breitbart News, you have a lot of conspiracy theorists that have helped the Tea Party and helped the conservative Republicans over the last decade. And you try to hit them with logic and they just don't want to hear it. And at that point, I feel like the best thing you can do is silence the noise. I look at the liberal media, or even just the fair media. And I think Obama spoke to this a lot. When it comes to these completely false stories, you can't push them. You can't put them on TV. And people and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, they put pressure on the social media conglomerates to take it off of Facebook.
Ellie Christopher McLean.
I was laughing at that.
You got to take it down.
The only conspiracy I want to know about is how Donald Trump has the same tenure for the last 10.
Orange man.
I can't. But listen, I have a lot of different types of friends, and I got friends that are logical, and then the friends that are conspiracy theorists. And so, I've gone through my rabbit hole myself, just looking at the things they posted. And some of those things you have to raise your eye. Chrissy Teigen deleted 60,000 tweets. Why is that? The ones that, they referenced were very subjective. You have to think, that's interesting. I was looking at a post. It did look like Oprah and Ellen had on an ankle bracelet. Am my eyes deceiving me? Is it Photoshop? I saw more than one. So at some point, we have to sometimes look in things if we have the time, or, you just got a little extra time on your hands, and be like, this is really interesting.
It's interesting.
Really interesting. Wait. The killer part about it is a lot of things are put into media, television, movies, social media, propaganda. So the more you see it, the more it dehumanizes you. The more killings you see, which is why I always tell you guys, I don't watch killings. I don't watch any of those because it dehumanizes you. It makes you get used to seeing people, Black people specifically, being killed, gunned down, etc. I don't do it. To the movies, a lot of those things, there's movies that were talking about mask outbreaks, quarantining, there are a few of them. So things that were this will never happen, it's happening.
Netflix rolled them out.
Right. And I mean, when the pandemic first started, everyone was watching that movie on Netflix, Pandemic, or was it Pandemic, or was it Parasite?
I think it's Contagion or something like that.
Contagion, Outbreak. There's several. Okay,
exactly. So, but my thing about the whole thing is we have QAnon, but then the right wing are saying the same thing about Black Lives Matter, and saying this is the whole conspiracy group, and they're out to, take over America. It's always going to be these two extremes.
Do you guys know who founded Black Lives Matter? Who's it's funded by? You know who it's funded by?
Tell us, conspiracy theorist.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do my research. I don't just believe and go with the Joneses. I think everybody should Google that. Google who
you tell us.
Black Lives Matter. No, we're gonna do research today.
Is it one person? Is it multiple people? What am I looking for?
In the Facebook, Google it for us.
Google George Soros as well while you're at it.
Okay. Well,
things seem so far-fetched that we don't even do our research to see if any of these things can really be true, because we've normalized it.
I've said this before. I feel as though if there really was some secret society, some secret Illuminati, I think we wouldn't know it. We will never know, because I think they would be that good and that powerful to not put anything out there to alarm us. You know, like QAnon is out there. They have a Wikipedia page. I don't think I don't know. Again, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. So I can't say yay or nay. I just think it's very interesting that this is the base that's really uplifting Trump's campaign right now, and that we're just now starting to really, really hear about them, even though they've been around for a long time.
Right. And I've been reading that they're going to vote, and they are the ones who are going to come out of the woodworks to vote this election, but they might have not necessarily voted in prior elections. And that's where the Democrats should be concerned, because the people who are conspiracy theorists on the left or people who are progressive aren't necessarily interested in voting. People, Black men, for instance, and I won't loop you in a group. We'll talk about that later. But
oh
no. But Black men are usually ones who are saying, I'm not going to vote, or I don't believe in that. And those are the ones who need to show up so that they can kind of counteract the people who are going to show up from QAnon.
Okay, I just have two things to say. One thing, my opinion of the whole conspiracy theory thing is this. It's more fake news than anything, and it's more of a distraction. If you're constantly looking under rugs and looking in your bathroom, in your bathtub, you're not going to see the person coming in your front door trying to shoot you. And I know that's a real harsh analogy in these times, but that's what it is. It's like, people make it seem like Donald Trump won the last election by a landslide. He didn't. He barely won. And it was voter suppression, because a lot of people thought that Hillary was going to be a landslide. Before Trump got elected, every popular media outlet, Republican, Democrat, whatever, thought he was going to lose. He's great at marketing. He had a great TV show, #1 hit TV show. So his ability to throw people off and to make himself bigger than what he is something he's been doing in media for a long time. So when people are like, hey, yeah, watch out for these people not voting, these people not voting, literally, if the same people that didn't want him in last time just actually voted and weren't lazy and just got out and voted, we wouldn't even have the situation. One.
Really? Because due to the Electoral College, it doesn't really matter anyways, right?
No, I'm saying with the Electoral College, he still barely won. It's not like he won by a landslide, even with the electoral. So not saying that he didn't lose he lost a popular vote, but I'm saying even in the Electoral College votes, it's not like he won by a large margin. So let's get Florida, let's get Ohio, and then he just loses. But the thing about
that's the thing about the Electoral College. It's a great documentary on CNN that just aired a few weeks ago about the Electoral College, and they highlighted the 2 or 3 people who voted for Trump. Well, they didn't vote for Trump. What they did is they wrote in another candidate that made Trump have more votes than Hillary. So that's the problem, is when you write in these people that aren't on the ballot. Like, that's the thing that I don't get, is these write-in votes. And that's why Trump is in, because those 2 or 3 people decided they didn't want to vote for Hillary and they didn't want to vote for Trump because of the too evil conversation.
Right. And we also have to, before we get into the next topic, we also have to make mention that there is a lot of gerrymandering going on.
Political gerrymandering, yes.
Definitely affecting our politics and our votes. And it's a lot of shadiness going on. So, I mean, yeah, we could talk about conspiracy, but there's some real life conspiracies that are actually happening, such as gerrymandering and the Electoral College, that I think we need to shed light on. There's not enough people talking about it. And I think until we address those things, then we're going to keep having the same cycle over and over every 4 years. We're going to keep having the same conversations. But yeah, so speaking of the same cycle and the same conversations, I'm sure all of you are aware of what happened earlier this week, and then the news that dropped on us today regarding Jacob Blake, who was shot 7 times in the back in Wisconsin. We have all become very aware of Kenosha also, which I didn't even know that was a place, due to the civil unrest and the protests and everything that was happening. Recently, a 17-year-old, I will not name his name because he does not deserve his name to come out of my mouth, was actually arrested today after some hours after shooting and killing a few of the protesters in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And then we had the announcement that the NBA, who was the teams that are not playing? I'm not an NBA.
None of them.
The Milwaukee Bucks are not playing tonight, and so are none of the NBA teams for that matter. This is temporary from what I've been told and from what I've been seeing on the news. And then we've also seen the whole rollout of other sports questioning whether or not they are going to play. LeBron James had a very eloquent tweet saying he's tired of the shit, point blank period. So yeah, it's very heavy. It's sad to think that this is going on. I was surprised that the Republican National Convention actually mentioned Jacob Blake. Happy that they did. But what does that say? You know, we thought we were making some leeway. We thought that I didn't think, but I think, you know, the whole society thought that, you know, after the George Floyd, you know, died down from all of those protests, that maybe we were getting somewhere. But it happened again.
You know, what concerns me is that this isn't even the end of it. Trayvon Martin died under Obama's watch. And yes, it's been escalating, and we've been seeing a lot of more police brutality during this administration. But again, November 3rd, I don't think anything's going to change. After the inauguration, I don't think anything's going to change. And my real concern is that it's going to get worse, and it's going to be a continued backlash because America is so divided. And I don't know when we think about America, what it was built on, what the Constitution stands for, the genocide of the Native Americans, I think that it's hard to kind of say, okay, one president is going to change the status of Black people or immigrants or women or the LGBTQ community. And it's this whole socialist agenda, right? It's that if we get rid of capitalism, if we get rid of this oppression versus supremacy idea, then it's not America. It's not what this country was built on. So I think, I'm not going to say that on live TV.
We'll have a conversation.
Shut up there.
So, but what do you guys think about this boycott? Do you think it's going to do anything? I mean, this is historic.
No, because people like their sports. I mean, during quarantine, they created a whole bubble for the NBA, and they got tested every single 6 days out of the 7 days a week so that these players can entertain people on TV. So no, I don't think it's going to do anything. I think it's not show, but I think that it's not for show, but I think it's a statement, but it's not necessarily going to stop the killing.
Jericho?
Listen, I'm just glad somebody's making a stand. You know, like I have been saying this forever. They're like, well, what can we do? I'm so tired of talking. I'm like, I think about capitalism and how the white hierarchy or supremacy, as you will, are affected. And it's really, you mess with their money, that's how you get their attention. So stopping sports, you know, again, after we just got sports back, stopping again, not because of COVID, but due to racial injustice, I was thankful. I was definitely thankful. Now, it does pose the thought, and that's kind of the reason why I thought about this topic anyways, is about protecting the Black woman. And we all know that the cops for Breonna Taylor have still not been arrested. So I'm glad that they are stopping it for Jacob Blake, but my question and concern is like, why wasn't that same type of force or empathy, you know, given for Breonna Taylor, you know? And so I wish that when Black women endure injustices and killings, that they were kind of given the same type of spotlight as Black men. But time and time again, we've shown that that's not true, and it shouldn't be that way. And the agenda that is put forth is always Black women against Black men. Even with this Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion situation, which we know we're gonna definitely dive into. But there's always this Black woman against Black men narrative, this agenda that has been in place for years since slavery, since they ripped us away and ripped us apart from our homes. And so I just kind of want to hear from you guys, do you feel like, and I put it on my Instagram story, and 80% y'all said that Black women in America are not protected. So I want to hear your thoughts and if you feel like Black women in America are protected.
Yeah, so I think that's a really good compare and contrast that you made, because we know a few weeks ago or a few weeks back, all the NBA players, when they were doing their post-game interviews or, whatever press conferences that they were doing, they were talking about Breonna Taylor. And so there's that comparison, and it's good that you brought that up between the talk and the walk, So I do know, based upon what has been reported, that specifically the Milwaukee Bucks, that is on their home turf, and there's current rioting. And so they felt in that moment that they personally did not feel comfortable playing in celebration, because, a game is fun. It's a sport. It's celebration. And right in your backyard, you have people being killed by little 17-year-olds with rifles and, police coming in and shooting up people. So I understand that perspective, but I do see the compare and contrast between the Breonna Taylor situation and now Jacob Blake. So Lawrence, what do you think?
It's still hard for me. So when I mentioned I cried earlier today, it was regarding Jacob Blake, and it's so hard to see someone that looks like you, that is of your skin tone, of your race, and in this country be shot and in such a blatant fashion. And just having an understanding of history of how this happened, or how it's been happening since the beginning of this country, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It leads into a level of like apathy and uncertainty of like, what should the next step be? So I understand we're getting into the topic of the compare or contrast, if you will, protection issues, but I think it's important to always take a moment and really appreciate everyone's pain, everyone's life, just individually. I don't care whose it is, and especially when it's in such a blatant fashion and it's a systemic attack on Black people in this country. It just hurts me to my core. It hurts me to my heart. And I think throughout the last at least couple months, I don't know if we've gotten to a place where we've gotten better or thought things were going to change, but I think most people that want to know understand that policing in this country was originated in the attempts to capture slaves. I think they understand that the whole purpose of the police office, the police service, was to do that. And I
don't think a lot of people do.
Well, maybe that's my assumption. I'm sorry.
And I think that's the whole thing, is when we say defund the police, abolish the police, it's because you just changed the name from slave catchers to police and thought that things are going to change, or the message or the intent of the organization is going to change. The mission.
And I think that's exactly. And I think that's the issue with this particular story. He was trying to break up a civil fight between two women. So he was doing his civil duty, trying to make sure these women didn't hurt each other. The police arrived. He's like, oh, okay, great. Like, I'm out. This is how I interpreted it in my head. And they shot him in the back. So you call for help, or somebody called for help. You are trying to diffuse the situation, and now you're paralyzed. That will never make sense to me. And again, I'm gonna say it again. The more videos that we watch, the more dehumanizing it is. I used to watch all the videos. I don't do it anymore. My mental stability can't take it, along with the clients that I serve as a therapist. It just can't. So, Lawrence, I'm not surprised that you're crying today. You have that that along with the daily struggles that we deal with as Black women and men is tough. It's tough. It's tough.
So we have someone commented, Ashley Hamilton. She said, protected from who?
I was just going to say we should talk about that.
So when we're saying protect Black women, and maybe you can elaborate a little bit more, Gigi, who are protecting Black women from, and what are we protecting Black women from? You know, in my mind, I'm thinking, you know, just being protected in general, because we are at the bottom of the totem pole, you know, we're Black. So we deal with a lot of civil unrest. We deal with a lot of unfairness within society. We deal with a lot of malpractice. So I think that and as you mentioned, did you guys see a Black woman in the RNC at all? Did we see a Black woman?
See a Black woman.
Black women historically go out to vote.
I thought there was one. She was kind of chocolate. Did I make that up?
If she was, she wasn't. You know.
I don't know, but you know, your girl Candace Owens was mad that she didn't
mention her name. I was trying not to say her name.
She was mad.
Well, I want to speak to your question, Shariq, and even to Ashley Hamilton's question. When I say are Black women protected, it's something so near and dear to my heart, because I feel like in society nobody takes up for us really. Now, I'm not saying that like I don't have people directly in my circle that take up for me, but I'm saying as a society, as a collective, they don't really take up for Black women. That is why we have the highest mortality rate when we're giving childbirth. You know, that is why sometimes we come in for our hurt and our ailments, and they be like, oh, you know, dismiss us. And then they say, oh, you got good insurance. Now let me take you in. We are constantly dismissed. Or if I say something and then the person next to me says the same thing of a different way, sometimes it's going to be interpreted differently. The reason why Karen's was termed in the first place was because you had white women calling the police on Black people for doing random things. And let us not forget about Ahmaud, who's running and literally just got shot from running, or even Sandra Bland. Nobody talks about Sandra Bland really. Say her name. We don't talk about
it. My thing with protect Black women is that I think the onus is on Black men. Black women protect Black women. But my thing is, and what hurts me is that constantly, like even with the Megan Thee Stallion situation, in her getting shot in both her feet, she still protected Tory so that her and the other people along with her in the car would not get in trouble and would not get any wrongdoing happening to them because they had a gun in the car. Had that been a Black man, I'm not sure that he would have done the same thing. And as much as we say NAS, or as much as we say Black men don't love Black women, it's hurtful to me that as much as they harm us, Black women will still advocate and stand up for Black men. But on the flip side, I hear Black men say, oh, well, Black women only want you when you have money, or Black women, they hurt my feelings when I was in high school and said I'm ugly. So now that I have money, I'm going to just talk to white men, or I'm just going to talk to Latina women. So when I hear that Black men are the weakest link, part of me believes that.
I ain't never heard that, girl. Ooh.
No, it's on Twitter. And I say that with the same message that I plan on marrying a Black man. I don't plan on just dismissing them just because they hurt me or they don't protect Black women. I'm hoping that I find that Black man who does protect Black women that is wealthy. And I also see on Twitter, it's like, you got to choose between.
You say that is wealthy?
You guys saw that? Either he going to be broke or he ain't going to treat you right. So you got to pick one. But I feel like that's
the ones that don't treat you right either.
That's the Black women. It's like you have to choose between.
I don't know about a Black man that is wealthy, girl. You better claim it, okay?
Let me tag Lawrence in, because I do want to allude to his comment on his Instagram today, because he had some questions.
Okay.
That's why y'all throwing me under the bus too.
Yeah.
If you guys aren't following our Instagram,
yeah.
Network, and are following our individual Instagrams, please follow us, because the comments and the commentary get real.
Yeah.
It gets
spicy. So I feel like we're dealing with two issues here, right? Like on a very serious note, the concept that like Black women protect Black men, I think that's beautiful, and I understand where you're coming from, but none of us are protected. We're all dying out here. So it's not like us black men are protected, like black women are stopping us from getting shot by the police. So on that level, if we're talking about the institutionalized oppression, we're all going through the same thing. So when I hear this, like, oh, well, black women are fighting for y'all and y'all not fighting for us, I'm like, listen, we're not the ones shooting each other. Don't get mad at me because a white cop is shooting you. I'm not mad at you because a white man is shot at. Like, this is it. You make it seem like black men have the power in this country to stop white police from killing y'all.
They still have the patriarchy behind them.
We do. But what I'm saying is these are separate things. We have zero power when it comes to the prison industrial complex. We have zero power when it comes to the pay scale. We have zero power when it comes to death mortality rate of black women. We have zero power in these situations. So it's not fair to put that on us. Now, this other stuff you want to talk about, we can go to Megan Thee Stallion. We can go to like marriage, and we can go to like, relationships. That's fine. If you want to say, we can have that discussion. But I feel like it always gets lumped in of like black men are not protecting us and we're protecting them. Like, we're not all out here dying. All of us. You know what I'm saying? We should be together. It shouldn't be.
What are we talking about today when we attack black women?
I think but this is when I told you guys I had a lot of feelings. This is exactly what I was talking about, right? Because you have Jasmine saying that black men don't protect black women. I'm saying as a society, black women aren't protected. The Megan and the Stallion thing bothers me because it's propaganda, in my opinion. It's turned into more so like a black woman and black men thing, and versus just an individualistic thing. When there is domestic violence situations in other races, it don't be like, oh, it's white on right, white women aren't protected. But anytime there is something that concerns or involves black women and black men, and this Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez, this is, I feel like, propaganda to separate us. And I don't think that that's fair. Now you're getting the pressure, like they asking all the rappers, why you ain't speaking up for Meg? Why you ain't speaking up for Meg? They don't want to be in it. It's okay for them not to be in it.
I want to talk about my Black Lives Matter.
A lot have been standing up, but I'll say this too. As a black man, it's hard to come into a conversation with another black woman that's like, yep, black men don't stick up for us. Y'all ain't shit, but I want to marry y'all one day. Like, come on, man. How you gonna start the conversation like that?
It has to be one of you all who,
Me and Sheree gonna be up here listening.
But okay, so this one thing. You said, you said something, Jerica. Oh, the war on the black family.
Okay.
I 100% agree. And that's what my standpoint is that white supremacy has done so much to break the black family and break black men down that it's not just affecting us and me getting married today or me who I'm partnering with. It's affecting the black community in general. If I decide I'm going to have sex with a white man and have a baby with him, then my daughter or my son decides, okay, they're going to have sex with a white person because now they identify as a mixed race. It's not going to be black people anymore. And so then what we do?
It's always gonna be black people, girl. They've been trying to get rid of us for years. It's always gonna be melanin.
It's a study that, and I don't remember the exact number, but it was very soon. It was like 2030 something, where everyone is just gonna start looking ambiguous because of all. And look, I don't mind. You do what you want. If you want to date outside of your race, go for it. I mean,
Let me cut you off real quick. Let me just cut you off.
I'm gonna just leave that one alone.
Historically, if you go back hundreds and thousands of years, there was no such thing as race. There was no such thing as this person is black, this person is white. Everyone was moving around the continents and doing what they do. That's how you have so much of a variation of the people to begin with. So I can't, when you say that we're all going to be ambiguous, to me, that I feel as though ambiguity is what we're lacking. And we're all humans. There's a human race. Do we have cultural differences? Absolutely. Do we have differences in the way we speak, the way our hair looks? Absolutely. But I just believe that, maybe possibly our children's children could get to that point where it doesn't matter what your skin tone look like. And I think, it's important for us to make note of that race is a more recent social construct. It's the more recent social construct.
But then my devil's advocate to that is, okay, if we're talking about what was the norm back then, then let's talk about the LGBTQ community, because if we're talking about being progressive and, you know, sticking up for our differences, then why do we have to lump ourselves into this human race category when we do have these differences? And my thing with that is, yes, it'll be beautiful and ideal if we can all just have a kumbaya moment and race isn't a factor. But now that it is, I think we have to deal with it. And now that it's been a factor for the past 400 or so years, my worry is that our stories are going to be erased, and what we have been going through is going to be erased and be in vain. It's already being erased. They're just now saying, let's talk about Black and ethnic studies in high schools. Our stories and our pain has been erased, and I don't feel like it's any due justice to my ancestors to say, oh, we're just going to forget about what you went through because now we have the society.
I don't think it's saying they're going to forget it. I think that
in fear. We can't live in fear and say, oh, you shouldn't mix with this person and you shouldn't mix with that person. I'm just saying, let's look at it from a historical context that we all came onto this planet the way we came onto this planet. Race is a more
and we don't choose our race. I mean,
we don't choose it. We don't choose it. Now, if we're talking about the culture, I'm blickety black all day. You know, so I'm not against what you're saying, but I'm also from Oakland. You know what I mean? Like, that's all a part of my identity. Let's accept everything that's a part of us at the same time. But I just don't think that, you know, saying, oh, the race is going to be depleted. First of all, there's more Black people on this earth than anything. If we're looking at skin tone, we're everywhere. You know, so I don't think things to be afraid of or to go against.
I say, addition to that, Black history will never be erased. We have found ways to incorporate, even on the plantation, we had songs to tell our history. Historical Black colleges and universities were founded, and I went to one, you know, shout out to Clark Atlanta University, but just so that our history, can be continued. We will never, it's never going to be, you know, ended. Things will change. If anything, we woker and more awake now because the country was shut down. And only thing we had to focus on were the problems that we're facing today, the racial injustices, the killings, and things of that nature. So if anything, now we are more aware of what's going on. Anything, I think us as a people are going to elevate. We're going to be fighting to elevate because white supremacy is fighting to keep what they already have. And it's like we are fighting back with our businesses, with shows like this, with celebrities that are utilizing their platform to encourage Black excellence. Like, we're in the fight now. And I can't necessarily say that we were in the fight before. Like, I mean, we were in the fight, but in a different way. But this point in 2020, I think we're literally fighting.
I think that
televised now. I think everybody has cameras. Everybody's talking about it. The world is so extra connected. I think we've always been fighting. I think we've been fighting the same fight over and over, but now we're seeing it more. So sorry to cut you off, Lawrence. What were you about to say?
I think we're finding it differently, though.
Yeah, well, I think both of you touched on the race as a social construct. I also believe that it's not going anywhere. We shouldn't have to worry about that. I want to circle back one thing on the LGBTQ comment. Even that operates, I truly believe, operates on a spectrum. So in the same way that culture is operates in a way that's socially constructed, that changes over time, is the same thing with sexuality and gender. The way you've seen it, the way we interpret it, all that's fluid as well. Going all the way back to the protecting Black women, I just wanted to make sure that my point for today was that I don't think it should be any confrontation, any conflict between Black men and Black women in regards to, I hear it all the time, that Black women protect Black men and Black men don't protect Black women. When we look at the statistics, Black men and Black women are still getting married. There's a lot of good Black men out there. There are conversations that need to be had. There are definitely, I can show you the statistics. Black men marry Black women more than anybody else.
This is true. It's 80% if we just want to have statistics. Right. 80% of Black men marry Black women, which is why I said it is an agenda.
It is.
It is.
That is put in place by the media.
And we have blind spots. We do have blind spots, but that should be a conversation from a unity standpoint and not just Black men ain't shit. And here we are again. I'm like, that's not helpful because it puts even me in a defensive posture, because now I'm like, man, like I want to have this conversation. I want to engage. But if I'm already being demonized before I even do anything, then it's hard to have an open conversation.
But that's my thing, that Black men, and I hate to put y'all in a category, but I have to. You always are
You don't have to.
and not listening to the conversation and the pain and the points of Black women, and just are always so, well, I don't want to have this conversation anymore because you're offending me, and I just think you're so wrong. And we still marry you all. But
you know what? I want to say something, Jasmine, because I feel like both of you guys' feelings are valid. And I don't want to discredit your feelings just due to your experiences. And Lawrence, hearing you and your frustration, your feelings are valid too. So I think we can both agree that we love Black love and we want it to happen. And we just have to continue to grow and come together to figure out how we can continue to achieve the ladder for Black excellence. Due to our past histories, trauma, and experiences, we are going to see the world a different way. Some of our views are going to be jaded, but it doesn't mean that it's absolute. When we look at statistics, most Black men and women are together. Ashley Hamilton, there is hope. You may find him in the comments, girls. Slide in the DMs. Ashley looks like she's single. Slide in the DMs. We might start a dating show one day. Listen, we are all trying to be better. You know what I mean? We understand.
Before we close out, I think this conversation is a good conversation to have, but I think us as Black women too, we need to realize that we're being fed certain images and certain propaganda, and this could be exactly
an agenda
to divide us even more. So I'm having my internal conversations with my Black man, and I'm having conversations. I have nephews, I have cousins, and all of that few in between. But I want us to realize that even the anger that we feel as Black women and the propaganda that's being fed to us on social media, it's causing a divide. So let's not say you're not protecting us, you're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're not doing this. How can we find mutual ground? How can we come together and unite? I don't want to say against a common enemy, but the common enemy is the divide. There's something that is dividing us. So I think both of you guys, again, very valid points, but I think we do have to pay attention to what we're being fed and then what we're regurgitating and how it's still causing a divide. We want to be on the same page at the end of the day. And that's even in your own personal relationships. Are we fighting each other or are we fighting together? So that's gonna be my last statement.
I was just about to say, girl, that was your last comment. Okay. I feel like I just said kind of sort of the same thing, but I'll give my last one as well.
Go ahead.
The whole reason why I brought up this topic in the first place, because I do feel like, again, there is an agenda that has been put in place to put Black women against Black men, divide the family. It's been happening for years. And I think it is our duty to educate and put out the right statistics that more Black women and men are married than mixed couples. I believe Black love is beautiful. All love is beautiful, but specifically, I'm the product of Black love. So I am a Black love advocate. And I think it's our objective, and it should be our goals, to not only protect ourselves, but our brothers and sisters, especially because society, I'm not saying Black men, but society as a whole does not protect Black women and Black men. So let's try to protect each other, uplift each other, and not only talk about it, but be about it as well. And I say it all the time, and I'm gonna say it again: protect your mental space. All of these videos that are showing all these killings, I'm not saying that you should watch them. I don't think you should watch them. That's just my personal opinion. I believe that it dehumanizes you and it gets you used to seeing Black individuals being killed on a daily basis. And I believe, as a therapist, I guess, whatever, that you should protect your peace and your mental stability at all costs. Because once your mind is gone, it's really hard to do anything else in function.
Amen.
That's it.
Amen.
And my final statement, I am going to still ride my horse and say that I just pray for us as the Black community. And I encourage people to not just protect Black women that you love, and that goes for Black women and Black men. Don't protect people that you just know. Don't protect people that you just find attractive. Don't protect people after the fact when their name is trending and you're just trying to get them justice at this point. Protect them and help them know that they are worth something. Let them know that I think on social media, it's a lot of beating down, like you said, like everyone has said today, of the Black community and all these ideologies about Black women do this, Black men do that. But I will say, let's come together, let's find the peace, and let's find some harmony so that we don't feed into this agenda. But like I said, love people just not because you're attracted to them or because they're your family member. Protect them because they are part of our community.
But speaking of community, what about just us?
We'll talk about that later. Text just us for 31996.
Oh, that is important.
We didn't go into the whole thing, so I don't want to just throw it in there.
It's important. It's important. Y'all don't just us, okay,
You said
y'all.
protecting the community. I'm like, bam, just us.
Just I'm tired. It's 12 o'clock.
Lawrence.
I want to say, and I guess I'm an optimistic person. Keep loving. I feel like as our community, we're actually in a really good space. Keep loving each other. Keep being positive. Keep trying to figure out where your blind spots are, and listen more than you speak. And I feel like we can go a far way. In regard to the political comments, vote in the presidential election, but vote in all elections. Vote. Contact your politicians. Write letters, tweet, do whatever you can do to be politically active. It makes a difference. And even if you're not out there changing legislation, you can change someone else who will change legislation. Just now I got an alert on my phone that LeBron James and the Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers voted to not have any more playoff games this year. And to see that type of engagement and action with people being willing to sacrifice their own money and their own lives is motivational to somebody like me, who's like, maybe I shouldn't go to work. Maybe I should do more in my capacity and my job to stand up for our community. So keep fighting a good fight. And our community is not the problem. Actually, we are the solution. So keep that positivity and keep going.
Thank you, guys. Well, make sure you guys are following us at Yup Network to engage. If you have any questions or any further topics that you want us to have, we have a wonderful show for you guys. Next week is going to be real once again.
Ooh, I'm excited.
Thank everybody so much. This has been a wonderful show. Vote, look at your local elections, follow us, love us, and have
and shout out all the comments. Everybody.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in.
We love your support.
Yes. Well, everybody have a good night. Talk to you guys.
Good night.
Bye.
All right, night, y'all.
Peace.